For every movie that is made, 1,000 fails along the way. Movie making is a collaborative effort between hundreds of people, most of whom have long since given up on making good films. The process of making a movie takes years, and that is easy to forget when you're sat at home scrolling through Netflix.
Okay, let's relax.
When is the last time that you saw a movie that wasn't a sequel, prequel, reimagining, reboot, or otherwise part of a franchise? When you see an original movie, you better be aware that for this movie, all the stars aligned, and that's rare. Most of you have no idea how close that movie got to being cancelled. We're quick to forget the monumental ball ache it is for a movie to go from the idea stage to a finished product. Making a movie is less about trying to make art from a good idea as it is an endless blindfolded dance between pitfalls and disasters. At any point during production, something might happen that derails the entire project. An actor might pull out the last minute, your funding might unexpectedly be cut, the execs might not get what you're trying to make and can the entire production. I dread to think about all the great movies that we have missed out on because some wrench got caught in the spokes last minute. Anyhow, today I'm gonna talk to you about The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is a severely underrated movie from 2005 from the director Garth Jennings. The film is a sci-fi adventure comedy based on the successful book series from Douglas Adams. The plot of the movie is that, unbeknownst to the people of Earth, the planet has been scheduled for demolition to make room for a hyperspace motorway. This sucks for protagonist Arthur Dent because he recently met a girl he rather quite fancied. Last minute, Arthur is saved by his best friend Ford Prefect, who turns out to be an alien. The two of them bump into Trillian, the girl he met the other day and rather quite fancied, Seyfried Beeblebrox, and the depressed android Marvin. Together we now embark on a journey through the galaxy on a whimsical adventure never quite seen before in cinema history. Damn, I should be the one writing these blurbs. The film followed the traditional route of being made. By traditional, I mean that it first started off as a radio play, before it was adapted into a book series. Then they made a computer game, then a TV show, and after that, they naturally made a stage play. But all those iterations were just pit stops along the way to become his final form. You guessed it, the graphical novel. Wait, they did make a movie, right? Because the story was adapted into every media form available, it's difficult to determine its canonical structure. To understand this, we must travel all the way back to when Adams first started working on the story. We're talking about the archaic time of 1978. The year when cars looked like this.
Solidness and friendliness. You like the likes of Opal.
The Lord of the Rings looked like this.
Nice, master. Nice, master, nice.
And the Queen of England looked like this. Now that's context for you. Douglas Adams worked on The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy for over 20 years. The biggest success was the book series, which sold over 15 million copies. The book series is often lovingly referred to as a trilogy in 5 parts. This refers to the fact that no matter what Adams worked on, it ended up being in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy universe. The notable exception to this is the Dirk Gently series. You should read the Hitchhiker's books. They're great. If you live in 2022 and it's too late for you to pick up reading, might I suggest the audiobooks, which is read by Martin Freeman and Stephen Fry. But don't get me wrong here. Douglas Adams didn't sell the rights to his works, but he was majorly involved in all the adaptations of his story. Hitchhiker's Guide was his baby. The only thing left to do with the story was to make it in Hollywood. The books are satire, driven as much by language as they are by the events unfolding in the story. The plot often plays second fiddle in favor of the political takes, clever absurdities, and musings on greater philosophical questions. Every page is filled with wit and observations on life that lends itself to close reading and reflection. But how do you go about adapting such intricate writing to film? Let me give you just one example of his writing style from the first chapter in his first book. The ships hung in the sky, in much the same way that bricks don't. That is so fucking brilliant, I can't tell you how mind-bendingly awesome I found that when I read it as a 14-year-old. My claim is that Adams's way with words was the main reason behind his widespread success. His books are endlessly quotable. and have been the subject of many a pixie girl's tattoo. But adapting such language is tricky. Written sentences of great gravitas are rarely realized properly on the big screen.
I don't like sand.
When written, they are meaningful and clever, but once uttered on the big screen,
She called out for you, she called your name, and you weren't there because you're never there.
they come off as cringy and shallow. The fear amongst the hardcore fans was that an American studio would hire American actors and have them recite Adams' lines without truly understanding what they were saying. Adams started working on turning his books into a movie as early as the 1980s, traveling to and from Hollywood, attending pitch meetings and talks with studios.
Yes, I went to 1980 and then to Hollywood in 1983, and basically all the things that happen to people who go to Hollywood happened to me, including not getting the film made.
Well, as you might know, the Hollywood process is nothing if not slow. It took him more than 20 years for his script to be picked up. But in the end, Disney bought the rights. But that does not mean, necessarily, that the movie will actually be made. It actually took 3 more years after Disney picking up the script before things got moving. But when the final frontier of his Hitchhiker saga was about to be conquered, Adams dies of a heart attack at the age of 49.
Have you ever felt directionless? Like you didn't know what to do next?
Anywhere you go, you belong.
It takes nothing to kill a movie. But thankfully, the process continues without Adams. The super duo Garth Jennings and Nick Goldsmith picks up the reins, and with some script help from Kerry Kirkpatrick, they get the script approved by Disney. It has later been said that the aspects of the movie that deviated from the books are the things that Adams changed himself before he died. The project now is truly moving. Now they just have to cast the movie. That's the easy part, right? No. Most movies go through their own casting nightmares, and studios go through several screen tests and meetings with several actors for each role before they land on their final cast. In the 25 years it took to have the movie approved, several dozen big names were attached to it at one point or another. Now, any of these alternate castings would have ended up in an entirely different movie. In the end, they thankfully landed on Martin Freeman as Arthur Dent, Mos Def as Ford Prefect, Zooey Deschanel as Trillian, and Sam Rockwell as Seymour Beetlebrooks. Let me go out on a limb here and ask the question. Can Martin Freeman portray Bilbo Baggins without Arthur Dent? Can Zooey Deschanel become Jessica Day without the influence of Trillian? Can Sam Rockwell do Bush without Seymour Beetlebrooks? I know I'm reaching here, I know, but I'm sure I can see some of Adams' writing when they embody their future characters. The movie also has a plethora of heavy hitters without ever showing their faces. So, the movie finally gets made, and in my opinion, it's close to perfect. It combines comedy with heart, action with drama, adventures with a deep story, and fully realized characters. It is shot beautifully, with several blockbuster-worthy scenes. The humor appears genuine, both in dialogue.
We can talk about normality till the cows come home.
What is normal?
What's home?
What are cows?
And in slapstick.
Would you like a hug? No.
There is great chemistry between the actors when needed. The story, however, never requires career-defining acting, but there are still plenty of moving scenes. The practical effects is some of the best that Jim Henson's Creature Shop has ever produced. This was Garth Jennings' directorial debut, and he knocked it out of the park. You think he had done nothing else than make sci-fi movies his whole life. So, how did the movie do? It did great with focus groups. Test audiences loved the movie, and the fans that got to see the early screening praised the movie and stated that it kept up to snuff with Adams' other adaptations. But at the release, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy performed adequately in its opening weekend. That is industry jargon, meaning But why didn't the movie blow the roofs of cinemas when seemingly everything about it was so great? Well, remember when I told you earlier about how easy it is for a movie to fail? One of the pitfalls of movie making is the competition a movie might face. There's no way to predict this. And 2005 was quite a movie, yeah. Here you have a list of just some of the movies that premiered in 2005. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, Narnia, Batman Begins, King Kong, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, War of the Worlds, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Madagascar, Hitch, Sin City, Kingdom of Heaven, The 40-Year-Old Virgin, V for Vendetta, Constantine, Brokeback Mountain, Cinderella Man, Brothers Grimm, Pooh, the Heffalump movie. Don't panic, don't panic, don't panic. Okay, so the movie didn't crush any records, and Disney didn't want a sequel. But if you ask me, I'd say that Garth Jennings made a marvel of a first movie. A movie I'm sure that Adams would have approved of. The movie didn't reach a wide audience, but the core fan base loved it. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is a witty, heartfelt, entertaining love letter to the satirical sci-fi adventure books that Adams wrote in the 70s. And here is the whole point of this video. I don't think that every movie should be measured against the commercial successes of movies like Harry Potter and Star Wars. Some movies are simply a delightful escape from reality when we need one. Sadly, it's getting harder and harder for those movies to get made. One way movie studios ensure return on investment is by greenlighting sequels, franchise installments, and reboots, because those movies have proved to be successful, which is sad because we need movies like Hitchhikers. We just do. I watch Hitchhikers several times a year, whenever I need a little respite from life, when I need to see Marvin save the planet, or when I need to see John Malkovich ham it up, when I want my favorite rapper to throw back a goggle blaster, or when I want to believe that true love sorts itself out in the end. It isn't the perfect movie, objectively speaking, but I think it is, and I'd rather be happy than right any day.